Are you tired of the current anime landscape? With isekai upon isekai and generic shonen adaptations coming out the wazoo? No? Yeah, me neither. I have never watched as much anime as I did the last 2 years. And for some reason, I thought it was a good idea to also start reading more and more manga on top of it. Yes, I know, this is all One Piece. Do you know how hard it is to buy physical copies of any manga in this shithole country? That's why I read most of my manga online. And mostly manga from anime adaptations I have fully caught up on and where I just can't wait for a season 2. So I tried to expand my horizon and try to find manga that haven't had anime adaptations yet, and I'm here to share my findings. Recently, after finding out about the existence of the next manga awards, I found some very interesting manga. So I read the first volume of the ones I found very interesting and picked 5 of those manga that I love to share. But before I dive into that, give this video a like, and if you're into manga, post a comment below which manga you are reading right now and which one I should be reading as well. From abandoned buildings down the street to the furthest places in the universe, the human mind has no restraint on what it can and will be afraid of. Thanks to those fears, however, artists around the world have written, illustrated and brought to life those very fears. But what if we combined all the fearful things into one piece of media? Well, you get Dan Dan Dan, a Shonen Jump series written by Yukinobu Tatsu, an old assistant of Fujimoto Tatsuki, the mangaka of Fire Punch and Chainsaw Man. Dan 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 is the manga that mixes horror, action, romance and comedy brilliantly, where 2 regular students, Momo Ayase and Ken Takakura, are both really into the supernatural. Momo's into spirits and ghosts, while Ken is into the existence of aliens. And after coming into a verbal disagreement, they want to prove the other wrong. Ken brings Momo to a known alien hotspot, while Momo brings Ken to a haunted tunnel. And you guessed it, they were both right. Momo gets abducted by aliens and Ken gets possessed by an evil spirit. One thing you will find in this manga is just how absurd the entire thing can be. And since my level of humor is equal to that of a grade school student, I found the entire thing hilarious. The possessed spirit that took over Ken's body is called a Turbo Granny, a fast old lady who offered Ken to suckle on her teeth if she gets to gobble his schlong. While the aliens disguise themselves as salarymen who want to experiment and have sex with humans so that they can steal their reproductive organs. Luckily, both Momo and Ken get powers from these encounters. Momo unlocks her psychic abilities after the alien mess with her brain, and Ken gains a yokai power-up thanks to the demonic possession. And with this, they escape. The second thing you'll probably notice is that the characters all look very good. Both male and female, but especially the female characters. I think I'm most enamored by the hairstyle, which isn't just your typical long straight hair, maybe even a ponytail, but there's actual style and effort put into the hair, and it works really well. The design of the monsters and the aliens are also done incredibly well. Every creature they encounter can both look goofy one second and intimidating as hell the next. But with the horror tag, it doesn't just mean this series isn't stacked with amazing action and hilarious comedy. While the romance is a little bit of a slow burn in this series, it feels more natural than most actual romance series. But the one thing you're here for are the fight scenes, which are incredibly interesting since most characters all have their very own unique powers. The aliens rely more on sci-fi technology and their ability to get different alien races with different evolutionary benefits, while the spirits have more supernatural abilities, with some fights showcasing incredible creative ways of utilizing each power, and with some plot points even reaching the absurd, with one of the arc's main objectives being to find Ken's lost testicle that was stolen by the Turbo Granny, turned into a golden ball of spiritual energy that is turning other regular people into those special ability people that can see ghosts. It's a very silly manga with great art, nice cast of characters and interesting dynamics. It's the future. Full dive VR games have become commonplace. Regular display screens gaming are now seen as retro, and among this revolutionary time in gaming, of course comes shitty underproduced shovelware. With the shovelware comes Sanroku, a trash game hunter who, after beating the biggest trash game in history, is now bored and ready to try something new. So he goes to his local game shop and buys the best VR MMORPG to have ever existed, Elden Ring VR. No, I mean Shangri-La Frontier, which coincidentally is the name of the manga, written by industry newbie Katarina and illustrated by Ryosuke Fuji, who also did the Attack on Titan Lost Girl spin-off. Shangri-La Frontier is your basic VR isekai anime where no one is stuck inside the game and they can just leave and enter whenever they want. And within that game you can create your character, select your class and level up by defeating monsters. With Sanroku's history of playing shitty games, he is used to having his patience tested and exploiting game mechanics. So when everything within a game plays how it should, the ability to exploit game mechanics can really benefit you into becoming one of the best players. Basically, think of him playing bad games as Rock Lee fighting with his weights on, and him now playing a good game taking those weights off. However, for Sanroku, the whole appeal to playing bad games was because he likes challenge. And even now, he still wants some form of challenge. And after playing around and leveling up for a bit, he encounters just that. Something called a unique boss, who are just endgame bosses that progress the overall story of the game. These bosses are so strong, you are basically incapable of beating them all by yourself. But after constantly playing and even beating those stupidly broken games, Sanroku has gained the endurance of an ostrich? Okay, sure. With this level of endurance and an increasingly more broken luck stat, Sanroku starts to exploit the game. And we get to see the most interesting parts of what both the manga and the game Shangri-La Frontier has to offer. Sadly, most of the first volume is set up to the main story, but it does make me want to read way further to see what happens next. 16 years after the Second Holy War, on the top of the mountain God's Finger, rest a little boy and his grandpa. The boy's name is Percival and his grandpa's name is Varghese. As the only two living creatures on the rock, they lived peaceful lives, playing, training and hunting birds that flew too close to the top. On Percival's 16th birthday, Varghese asked his grandson, "Since there's an entire world at the bottom of the mountain to explore, don't you just want to go out and explore it?" To which Percival says that as long as he is with his grandpa, it doesn't matter where he is. This of course is a lie, since Percival is eager to go on an adventure, but he just doesn't want to leave his grandpa alone. Later on, a mysterious man comes to the top of the mountain, saying he came because of a prophecy telling of 4 knights that would rise up and destroy the world. He thinks that Varghese is one of these knights and quickly kills him and incapacitates Percival. This is the start of the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse, the sequel manga of the 7 Deadly Sins, written and illustrated by the same mangaka, Nakaba Suzuki. For all the flaws that the prequel manga had, the world the characters inherited was not one of those things. And getting to explore that world almost 2 decades after the last adventure in this series is a great way to reintroduce us. Also, you might have noticed, I haven't named a single character from the prequel series. And that's cause the series focuses on a new cast of characters. These prophesied Knights of Apocalypse are the runners of the show. Although the first few volumes focus solely on our new protagonist, Percival. While basic in terms of shonen protagonist, what I like about the first volume of 4 Knights is that it likes to marinate in its moments. This can be to its detriment when you're reading weekly, but when you are binge reading it, it's actually quite enjoyable. One of the perks of weekly reading it are the mysteries, which keep each chapter discussion pretty alive every week. And there are a lot of mysteries. One of the first big one was the red fox named Sin, who seemed to know more than he lets on. Also, to read this manga, you don't really need to have watched or read 7 Deadly Sins, since this series does a damn good job introducing you to the world, the power system and its characters. However, if you have already read 7 Deadly Sins and you enjoyed it, you might be thrilled to see the return of some fan favorite characters down the line. A remote town between the mountains of Japan. One wouldn't think anything of it. The ongoings of its citizens, the dreams and aspiration of its next generation, but in those very aspects, you can find immeasurable depth of the stories and tales. And this tale focuses itself on the deepest depth of them all, the abyss of living, the abyss of death, the abyss of selflessness and selfishness. This is Boy's Abyss. Normally, this isn't something I would normally watch and or read. But I really like the art style of the cover, so hey, sometimes judging a book by its cover does work out. But Boy's Abyss, like the name implies, is a dark manga, where the main character Reiji is stuck on a fork in the road. Either he doesn't find a higher education and goes to work straight after high school to support his family consisting out of his overworked mother, his dementing grandmother, and his neat brother who lives purely off a diet of fried chicken. Or he can abandon his family altogether, leaving them in a small town while Reiji flees to a bigger city to go to university. Since he feels responsible for the well-being of his family, he makes a choice of staying in town, even though that means giving up on his own future. One night, however, he meets this idol who recently moved into this small town, and after showing her around, she proposes a question upon our main character. "Say, Reiji, wanna commit suicide together?" And with those two sentences, this series' main point of conflict starts, since for Reiji, he only had two options before, staying or leaving. But what if he chose neither? While the story's main focus is Reiji, he isn't the one controlling this story. It's his friends, his family and his acquaintances who are forcing their will upon him to either stay, to leave, to kill himself or to die together. One of my favorite parts of this manga are the pages of character introspective, where one character reaches a low point and all their sorrows flood the pages. These pages give us the insight needed to understand each and every character in the story, giving us all our own reason to believe what to be the right choice and what to be the wrong one. Since this manga doesn't really pick a side, while characters in the story might condemn other characters' actions, it is oftentimes followed by hypocrisy or escalation that make everything even worse. While the manga in itself is fairly dark in tone, it doesn't shy away from the absolute hilarious moments as well. Most of them come from the teacher character who is absolutely insane. The idol industry. One of the most competitive industries in Japan, and maybe even the world, where being top class is not enough for success. You need to be above and beyond the creme de la creme. Here we arrive at the very manga that focuses on the rise in stardom and the struggles that comes with it. Oshinoko. Oshinoko is a new manga created by the collaborative efforts of Aka Akasaka doing the story and Mango Yokiyari doing the art. While not very familiar with Yokiyari's work, I am, however, a big fan of Akasaka's most successful manga. And it's very clear Aka is writing this story, since one of my favorite parts of Kaguya is how information is portrayed through dialogue, and in this story, that is turned up to the max. With Akasaka's more in-depth involvement in the Japanese showbiz industry, he can speak with more authority, and you know he's flexing his knowledge, cause in the first volume he's going ham with expository dialogue that is really fun to read through. So, what is the story about? Well, for an idol show it is quite a bizarre setup. See, a teen idol by the name of Ai gets pregnant and goes to a small town hospital to give birth without the media knowing it. The gynecologist that helps her is coincidentally a big fan of hers. Excited to meet her and impressed with how strong her off-screen personality is, the gynecologist decides not to just help her through her pregnancy, but to assist her wherever needed. However, a mere minutes before she gives birth, the gynecologist is murdered in cold blood, causing the gynecologist to be reincarnated as one of the twin sons of the teen idol. He, along with his twin sister, are both fans of hers, that were reincarnated as the children of the idol named Ai. With the rest of the series focusing on the growth of Ai as a celebrity, and the two twin children gaining a foothold within the entertainment industry and living their lives with the knowledge they possessed in their previous life. With the story setting up a pretty big conflict far in the future, with the start of each chapter showing us a confessional of a character we meet throughout the volume, talking about their past event that has yet to happen. In my honest opinion though, Oshinoko is my least favorite manga of this entire video. If we only look at the first volume, since that was the assignment, only read the first volume and give my opinion on those. But for this story, I decided to read a bit further. The story after volume 2 gets quite a bit better, and it somehow keeps getting better throughout the entire manga. So I cannot stop recommending it, because right now, Oshinoko is one of my favorite mangas to read. Hello everyone, thank you for watching my video, hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, hit the like button, and I hope you also enjoyed the manga that I talked about in this video, because I very much enjoy every single one of them, and I hope that I give you a lot of reading pleasure and something to do in these very nice upcoming summer days. I also am very happy to see that 2 of the manga that I talked about in this video will be getting an anime adaptation. I'm of course talking about The Four Knights of the Apocalypse, which will be getting an anime adaptation, and of course, like I said at the end, Oshinoko, my favorite of the bunch, will also be getting an anime adaptation. I am incredibly hyped for both, but with the next Manga Award 2022 around the corner, do you want me to pick a few of those that I find interesting and make a video about them as well? Did you like this kind of video? Post in the comments below. I'm Durcoin and thank you for watching.